resistance. And in some ways, you might even say that is the tension isn't something to be resolved, it's something to be lived. So can you tell us a little bit about how do you maybe express resistance, how do you express that tension, especially in your art?
Capitalism is weird, complex, and an illusion. It's very magical and mysterious, and it's supposed to be that way. But I feel like I see this game that they're playing. We all know the game of capitalism. We have to play it every single day, right? But I feel like by playing this game with sort of the queer things that I like to do, drag, I can sort of turn it on its head, use it against them in a way. I think about like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat from the 80s and 90s with their pop art paintings. They're so anti-capitalist in their art, but mainstream America and people ate it up for lots of money. They thought it was, iconic and valuable. That's where I'm at right now with my art and my drag is very just like taking what they give to us, the people in power, and throwing it right back in their face and sort of mocking them with it.
Hello, good morning everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I love the high back. I have folks on the live stream too. Today is the second day of the first annual Drag and Spirituality Summit taking place here in Chicago. Today we're at the Broadway United Methodist Church in Lakeview. We have a really great program ahead of you today. Our first panel this morning is titled Bare Naked, Queering Our Religion and Spiritual Identities. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Danny Sanchez up to welcome the panel.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. So my name is Danny. I am a student of religion. I am a ministry practitioner, and I am a queer person. And I am so excited to welcome you all this morning and to introduce this panel. So the panel is called Born Naked, and I'll just say a few words about that and then invite the panelists up. So you all recognize, I'm sure, the phrase Born Naked from the lyric of that RuPaul song, We're All Born Naked and the Rest is Drag. And I really think there's two truths in that statement. The first truth that I hear is about our shared humanity, how underneath our clothes, we are all human, we are all flesh and bones, and there's something fundamental that we all have in common with each other. But then there's also a completely opposite truth. It's this invitation to play, to be different, to explore, to put on clothes, to put on a performance, to put on something that is more than just what the world tells you to be. That you have an infinite realm of ways to express yourself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's really that tension between what we have in common, what we all share together, and how that is expressed in our traditions, in our spiritual traditions, but then also how we resist. How do we resist tradition? How do we express ourselves as individuals? And so with that, I am going to invite our panelists to all come up and have a seat with me, and we'll introduce them and get started. I'm going to let all our panelists introduce themselves. So if you would share your name, your pronouns, and how would you describe your relationship to drag?
I have developed this drag persona for about 5-ish years now since I moved to Chicago. She was born out of my distaste and dissatisfaction with the two-party system and capitalism and sort of the foundations of America and the Western world. So, I'm a recent public policy graduate from the University of Chicago as well, very interested in religion and spirituality, and sort of what you all mentioned as well, just the politics of life and the radical roots of drag. Yeah, I feel like for my story is probably very similar to a lot of people that look like me and come from where I come from. I was born and raised in Michigan, so a very rural, classic experience for most of us, I assume, but I was raised very Catholic, lots of rituals and just deep Polish Christian practices, church every Sunday, Sunday school. But I grew very upset and angry at that as I got older and learned about my queerness and how religion is used to exploit people. So then I got a little agnostic atheist for a while, which felt sad and existential and a little pessimistic. But since COVID, I feel like there's a few life things that's happened to me. My little sister passed away when I was 21. She was 16. On top of 2016, which was Trump and fascism. So drag was like a safe space, a place for me to explore my spirituality, my deep inside myself. That's why I fell in love with art again and painting myself and all the beautiful people I met through that. And then I realized that I felt so spiritual, I felt so safe and connected to my body and my art, and I sort of reconnected with like those Catholic roots, but in sort of how I like to describe it, like a queer mystic way. My confirmation saint when I was younger was St. Francis of Assisi, and he's just like this clown to me. Like he gave up all of his wealth and all his property, gave it away, and lived a life of rags, and nailed holes into his hands for the performance art of it all, saying he had the wounds of Christ. And I'm very inspired by like Lady Gaga and how she uses Catholicism and imagery and all that sort of symbolism and sort of reclaims it for queerness. So that's where I'm at right now with that. Yeah. I mean, what's coming to my mind right away is like, I feel like there's often this idea within whatever identity group or whatever community we're in, it's like, I'm not queer enough, or I'm too queer, I'm not Catholic enough, or I'm too Catholic. Like there's always these two extremes of wanting to fit in and feeling judged or feeling too judged. I mean, I'm thinking about the question that you have us prep for this and sent us these questions, so I'm thinking about what I wrote down to earlier, and I don't really have any specific stories that are coming to mind, but just sort of these themes and ideas of like not fitting in, like with my drag and the way I think and the way I act in the world. Just like the ideas of gender. So Karley Marx is a play off Karl Marx, right? I used to be like a hardcore neoliberal Democrat, and now I'm a radical working class icon. But even like within that, I feel like sometimes my drag is not accepted because it's not feminine enough, or because I am such a masculine presenting cis man, sometimes I'm too masculine, too much in that sense. So there's lots of tensions, no matter where I'm at, whether it's at a club or back home in Michigan, just sort of finding that balance in life of what makes you happy, because I like what you were saying, like you're the one that has to live with yourself. I am my best friend, and I feel that sacredness, that divineness within. And I wrote a quote down when studying for this panel by Audre Lorde, who was one of my who should be one of all of our inspirations, and who's done some really incredible deep political work in America. But self-preservation is the most radical political act, and I feel like that's sort of why we're all here today and together in this community, because we have this crave, we have this desire to relieve tension and get rid of this tension for not only ourselves but the future of the children, because we don't want them to live in that, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. later, Marx, I wanted to follow up on that because I think a lot of your art is about resistance. And in some ways, you might even say that is the tension isn't something to be resolved, it's something to be lived. So can you tell us a little bit about how you maybe express resistance, how you express that tension, especially in your art?
Capitalism is weird, complex, and an illusion. It's very magical and mysterious, and it's supposed to be that way. But I feel like I see this game that they're playing. We all know the game of capitalism. We have to play it every single day, right? But I feel like by playing this game with sort of the queer things that I like to do, drag, I can sort of turn it on its head, use it against them in a way. I think about like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat from the 80s and 90s with their pop art paintings. They're so anti-capitalist in their art, but mainstream America and people ate it up for lots of money. They thought it was, iconic and valuable. That's where I am right now with my art and my drag is very just like taking what they give to us, the people in power, and throwing it right back in their face and sort of mocking them with it.
I love that, and I think you just summarized a essential thing that in some way all of us are saying, which is that spirituality is a form of drag. You are putting on something or performing something, and it's contextually dependent. It is an expression of different things about who you are. It comes from different communities, and it can be playful as much as it is hard. And so I want to spend a little bit of time on that playful part and turn the conversation more in that direction. Because at the end of the day, drag is a real gift, and at its best, spiritual life is a gift to you as well. And so I want to hear from you all. In what ways have you been blessed, or do you have gifts in your life from drag as an art form, from having an intentional spiritual practice? How would you describe the blessings that come out of those aspects of your life?
There's something to be said about sort of just the conversation that's happening so far right now. At least Christianity and these major religions of power and majorly historical institutions, right, that have ruled the world and collaborated with capitalism and oppressive forces. I feel like they want to beat it out of us, this idea of sacredness and spirituality. Christianity taught me to hate myself in a way, unfortunately. And as a young child, I knew that I knew it wasn't supposed to. I felt so safe and loved at church. I felt the divine. But then, you mentioned an agnostic phase as well, or sort of an atheist phase. I feel like that's sort of where they want us to go as well. Get very nihilistic and existential and have no hope left. So this idea of queerness as a religion and a spiritual force, I think that's really important and powerful. So I just wanted to acknowledge that real quick. In regards to spiritual, the gifts that I found through this, I take comfort in a lot of ritual. I love, getting in drag this morning, this little outfit, it's a little ritual for me. I do what I do and I get in it. And, I find a lot of beauty in it. I find a lot of other artists like you all, leaders and people who want to take care of each other. That's a major gift that I find. I took so many notes because I'm a little note taker, but I wrote down honoring our ancestors and fighting for our future. And then that idea again of self-empowerment, community, and that community that's based on just love and art.
And this is specifically for the two drag artists on the panel. How can we support you? How can we support you in your flourishing, in your spirit, in your art? What would you want the audience here and the audience online to know about how they can be allies and supporters of your work.
First, real quick, in a society that profits off of hating yourself, loving yourself is the most radical act. So, like you said, we live with this body, this is our body, so this is your best friend. Make sure you love it and live in it as much as you can. But as far as support, I don't know, I'm just vibing, I'm doing my own thing, I feel good, thanks for being here, y'all. Check out my Instagram, check out my website, ladymarx.com, Lady Karley Marx on Instagram. I always post stuff, I like to do shows here and there. And just like tip the dwells when you're out and about, give them money, watch their things that they post, share their stuff. Yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice. I like to uplift a lot of other artists with myself who are doing the work that I think needs to be seen. And on that note, I would like to mention a couple of Chicago artists that I really look up to. Christopher Belmont, who was on the panel and at the show last night, they actually were the one who got me interested in this sound and connected me with Danny. So shout out to Christopher Belmont. Luca Me, if you haven't heard of them, they're sort of like the god, deity, father of like alternative Chicago drag. So they host really incredible, uplifting, supportive shows here. And Miss Issa Diamond, who's in the audience as well. Thank you for being so inspirational. I'll just mention a few that have inspired me throughout the years. Gaga, Warhol, Basquiat, Frida Kahlo, a lot of artists, activists, drag queens, and performers from history. Stonewall Riot, Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson, Baldwin, Nina Simone, just the icons, the legends that keep me going and inspire me every day. Always studying, always learning from our ancestors.
Yes, thank you. And we will be the ancestors also.
Politicize Karley Marx's death someday, please. Use me for the revolution.
Thank you everyone for listening to us. Thank you to the panelists for having this conversation. Can we do one more round of applause?